Good morning, lovely people. How are you all today? I hope you're well. I'm well, thank you. Just got the remnants of this naughty little cold, but never mind. It'll go soon. And we've got a little tiny bit of light today too. Yay! Now, today's video is a little bit off a tangent. It's one of those lovely little YouTube challenges that do the rounds at this time of year because we're all getting a bit bored because there's not much to do in the garden and all that. But I really like this one. I think the questions in it are great. So this has been set by, I want to say Ophelia, but she's changed her name recently to Alternative Smallholding. Have set us on the way with this challenge. Thank you so much. Really lovely little channel. And what's really cute is her daughter Rue is going to start doing her own strand. I think they said they're going to do it on a Wednesday, called Grow with Rue. And it's going to be gardening for kids presented by a kid. How great is that? I love the idea. Just get the kids involved. Brilliant. Because they are tomorrow's farmers, aren't they? Food growers. Yay! So the challenge is called, where are my questions? Got it here. The challenge is called the 2018 Roundup Challenge. Nothing to do with the chemical Roundup. Kind of reflecting back on the year that's been. So what perfect time to do it than in these chilly days of December. So here we go. The first question is, what was your best crop of 2018? I'm just reaching for my water bottle as I always do. My best crop of 2018. I think there were two actually. The tomatoes were great. And I think partly what made them my best crop of 2018 was the fact that even into May, even beginning of June, I was thinking I wasn't going to have any tomatoes at all. But then my lovely plot neighbours and friends gave me some of their spares. And then the ones I'd started, which I didn't think were going to come to anything, came to something. And because we had no rain, because of the drought, we didn't get any blight. So the tomatoes just kept giving and giving and giving right into the middle of October. Never, ever known anything like it before. So the tomatoes were fantastic. But of course, my other favourite, it has to be on my list of favourites, my squash harvest. In the end, I got 50 squash out of the equivalent of, I can't even be bothered to work out the square metres, but it wasn't a huge amount of space. All sorts of shapes and sizes and textures and colours, all sorts of varieties. And I've been noshing my way through them and they all taste gorgeous in all their own different ways. So yeah, tomatoes and squash were definitely the best of 2018. Now, what was my question number 2? My worst crop of 2018. I think in descending order. In third place, well, it's hard to say really because I have got things in the end, but for instance, the carrots took 4 sowings. Ridiculous. But I have got carrots in the end and they're really good and yummy and really robust and strong in flavour. The brassicas all took 3 sowings. Actually no, some were 2 sowings and some were 3 sowings, but again, really struggled to get those going. But now I'm eating them, so they can't be classified the worst. Okay, so in at number 2, the parsnips. Oh my goodness, 3, or was it even 4 sowings in the end? Once Paul from Richard and Paul sent me some of their spare seeds. So I've got about 2/3 of a row out of 3 rows, but they look tiny tiddlers, so I think I'm going to have some micro parsnips for Christmas. But definitely the worst crop this year was the leeks. My leek seedlings completely failed. I think right back at the beginning of the year I bought some hinky compost. Gary rescued me with some of his seedlings which I planted, but the whole lot were decimated by allium leaf miner. It's been gradually getting worse on my site over the last 3 or 4 years. So much so, that's it. I've decided I'm not growing leeks anymore. It's too much work for a whole bunch of heartache. So yeah, best was tomatoes and squash, worst was leeks. Question number 3, what will I do differently, I guess next year, or what were my lessons learned this year? So definitely differently next year. I'm not growing leeks. No, there we go. The main difference for me next year is I've got 4 big large beds, as you know by now, and I've been rejigging them slightly, so each of the big beds contains 5 smaller beds, so that where I'm walking on the soil, the idea is now that's going to just become a permanent path. I used to always dig up the whole bed after a year of growing in order to rejig the space for different crops, so some take up more space, some less, but I had a long, careful look at things as the summer and going into the autumn, and I realised actually I can do these permanent 5 smaller beds and still get the same amount out of the space, just ever slightly rejigging the planting. And what it means is that going forward, A, it's less digging because I won't be digging those paths out, and B, the new permanent mini beds I've created, there'll be hopefully less digging involved with them because they won't be alternating between being a bed and a path from year to year. So the plan now, excuse me, I've just looked down the list and it says what are plans for 2019, so I'll stick with that. What will I do differently next year, or what would I do differently? Rejigging the design of the plot to make beds permanent so there's less work involved with them each year. That's what I'll do differently. Question number 4, what was your biggest challenge? Undoubtedly this year it was keeping the plants alive. Getting them to germinate in the first place was tricky enough. Excuse me. But then purely keeping them alive. This was our worst drought in 96, 2006, in nearly 40 years, just over 40 years, our worst drought. Not only were we bone dry for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks on end, but we were also really, really hot for the UK, certainly for my little garden here. So, yeah, it was quite a challenge to pretty much every night I was having to water, every single night. And my whole plot takes about an hour and 20 minutes to water. So by the time I've walked to the allotment, done my watering and walked home, that was 2 hours every single evening. It's quite a chunk of time. You know, if you're thinking you're trying to arrange that around, you know, cooking dinner, having a chance to be on the phone with your mum or whatever it is, that was a challenge. But the other challenge was I do try to mulch as much as possible. And usually, or, you know, sort of from spring right through to autumn, one of my great sources of mulch is grass clippings from when I do all the communal mowing on site. But of course our grass wasn't growing in the summer. Well, from sort of May, June, July, August, right into September, we just didn't need to cut the grass. So that was another big challenge, finding materials to mulch with. So yes, hopefully the summer of 2019 we'll have some lovely warm sunny days, and then hopefully overnight when none of us are in the garden and it's dark, it can rain. Fingers crossed. So what are my plans? Question number 5. What are your plans for 2019? I've kind of given it away already, haven't I? So I'm doing this rejig of the beds. I haven't made a firm plan of anything yet. It's one of the joys of winter, isn't it? It's to sit in the evening with our sketchbook, our garden journal, whatever it is, to sketch out our ideas, what we want to do. Generally, my plans don't change much from year to year. I operate a 4-year rotation using the 4 main beds, so everything hops a bed each year. Excuse me, lingering cold. So I think one of the big things for me is, over the last few years I've experimented quite a lot with trying new things. I've ended up with, dozens of varieties of this, that and the other. And I think one of the things I might do next year is actually just narrow down my choices a bit again and look at what has been productive over the last sort of 3 or 4 years. What's the most prolific? What's the most reliable? And sort of go back to that. There are a few new things to try because folk have been sending me some new seeds to try, which is great. Otherwise, no big plans at the moment. The main change this year was getting those beans moved out of the beds onto the sides and with the arches, so that the path was the wasted space, if you like. They sort of worked, but the tops needed a bit more structure to stop them flopping over. So I'm going to replicate that in 2019, but just make the tops a bit more rigid. Excuse me. But that was great doing that this year because it freed up so much space. So yeah, plans for 2019, haven't really firmed them up yet. I will have an evening sitting with all my seeds, look at what I've got, look at what I might like to have, look at what I can do swapsies for. I love swapsy. And get my colour pens and paper out and start sketching how I'd like the plot to look next year. And then finally, this is a lovely question. Question number 6. Who inspired you in 2018? And I was thinking about this. Sorry, my cold is sitting right here in the top of my chest at the moment, and it's trying to come out. You don't need to know that, sorry. So, in terms of who inspired me this year, I don't think it's so much a who as a what. It's very simple. The garden itself inspires me. The more time I spend here, the more time I want to spend here. As the years have gone on, I've fallen more and more and more in love with the garden, with being here, with working with the soil, with having ideas, creating things. And the more I put in, the more I get out. And the more I get out, the more inspired I am to be here, to be mucking around with my soil. I've got really, really lovely neighbours on this site, and I suppose you could say they're part of my inspiration. Not as gardeners per se, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, not that they're not good gardeners. I just mean that as individuals, they're all so different, and they all make me happy in so many different ways that they inspire me to come here as well. It's always lovely, especially at weekends or in the evenings in the summer when we were all watering. They just inspire me to be here and to be happy and to be grateful to have this wonderful space and this wonderful life I've managed to get for myself. So yeah, the garden and all the people around it, that's what inspires me to get stuck in. Yay! Right, another quick slug. Cough first. I think I might do some chest physio on myself when I get home. See if I can get this moving. Ew! Right, now I need to tag 3 more people to carry this on. So, I'm going to tag, of course I'm going to tag the lovely Richard and Paul, because they tagged me in the last one, so I'm tagging you back. It's like a game of tag in the schoolyard, isn't it? You've heard me mentioning Richard and Paul a lot, and I know quite a few of you have gone over to have a look at their channel, and some of you are really, really enjoying it, which is great. So, Richard and Paul, if you're not too busy with your chat, have a go at this 2018 Roundup challenge. Now, the other person I'm going to tag, and I haven't talked about him for ages, but he's fantastic and fabulous. And I know that there are dozens, hundreds, probably thousands of you who watch me who love him too. And that is Cliff at Castle Hill Garden. Hey Cliff! I've said this so many times recently, I hardly get a moment to watch other people's YouTube videos, which is always a disappointment to me because I'd like to. But whenever I drop in on Cliff, I don't know, there's just something about the pace of his videos, the tone of his voice, everything just feels so calming and chilled and relaxed. And he's so knowledgeable. You just know straight away that with Cliff, you're in a safe pair of hands. Oh, he's fab. I think we can all think of him as our allotment granddad. I hope you don't mind me saying that, Cliff. You know what I mean? Yeah, so, Cliff, you're tagged. And the last one, this is a really new channel to me. And I found this channel because of that last challenge was set up by her. So I hope she'll pick this up and do it. I don't know, she's got a lot of videos, a lot of subscribers. She seems really, really busy, so I'm sure she doesn't have time to watch other YouTubers. But it's the channel called Roots and Refuge Farm. She's so lovely, just bursting with kind of warmth and goodness and wholesomeness. I really, really like her. She's based in Arkansas, I think it is. She's got a whole gaggle of kids. They've got livestock. She's doing what I want to do, or wish I'd done maybe 20, 30 years ago. Anyway, so Roots and Refuge Farm, consider yourselves tagged too. Yay! Right, that's enough of me babbling on. It's time for me to go and play in the garden. So I say cheerio, I can't speak, cheerio to you all for now. And I hope I will see you all again before too long. But in the meantime, have fun whatever you're getting up to and take care of yourselves.